Welcome to another episode of Holistic Health Habits, the podcast where we explore best practices, innovations, and insight into holistic health. I'm your host, Serani Fernando, and today we have an incredibly knowledgeable guest who has made significant strides in holistic health. Joining us is Dr. Carolyn Dean, the CEO of RNA Reset, a company dedicated to promoting optimal health through innovative natural products. Dr. Dean has an extensive background in holistic health, and she's here to share her expertise with us. Welcome to the show, Dr. Dean.
Serani, please call me Carolyn.
Okay, I will. It's really great to have you on, and I'm really excited about this conversation. But just to start off, you have a really interesting background and journey going back many decades. Can you tell us a bit about your beginnings of, getting your MD and what led you to steer your work more in the direction of nutrition and holistic health?
Serani, it's interesting because unlike a lot of doctors who they go into medicine, they come out, they're writing prescriptions, and they're...
Oh, one second. Oh, sorry. Can you unmute your microphone? I did mute you just to check with your microphone. Yeah, that's it. You can start from I was just checking your mic because when you start, it's like really soft and then you get into, so I don't know what. I was just going to check your microphone settings because
let
me your AirPods. So I don't know if
I can turn up my volume on this end, and I'll just be sure to talk, a nice steady.
And there's no way you can put your microphone onto the computer microphone. Do you know how to do that? Does it give you an option?
I do the computer microphone pods, and let me see if I'd be able to hear you.
It's also giving me
hello. How does that sound?
That sounds fine. Now I have a echo.
Hello. I said hello twice. Maybe that was the echo.
No, it's me. It's me. I can hear myself. So I'm hearing myself. What browser are you using?
I'm on Chrome. Firefox doesn't seem to work as well.
Yeah.
Chrome.
All right. Why don't you put your AirPods back in?
Okay, so how does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds fine. And I think just generally when you answer, it was almost like it taking time to ramp up with your...
Yeah.
So maybe I guess at the beginning, maybe a bit louder. I can, that's anything I can suggest. But let's go back to, I'll just say welcome to the show, Dr. Dean, and you can go with your answer. Okay. Welcome to the show, Dr. Dean.
Thank you, Serani. Yes, it's been an interesting journey. When I was a teenager, I was very interested in nutrition and health, and that is going back to the 60s. I've been at this a long time. I read all the books that there were to read on health and nutrition. Then there weren't that many, but people wouldn't listen to me. And I happened to be in an honors biology class degree, and some of my fellow students all of a sudden got accepted into medical school, and I was outraged. So I went to the Dean of Medicine's office, found my guidance counselor from high school there, and gave her dressing down because they said, "You told me I should be an executive secretary or a nurse. I should be a doctor." So the next semester I got into med school, and I had all the prerequisites. It was meant to be, but I'd never thought of it before. And seriously, Serani, I thought back then in the mid 70s that within 10 years, all the doctors would be practicing nutrition and lifestyle because it was ramping up and becoming very important. And that never happened. When I finished my internship, I began my sort of a post-grad naturopathic training and got my naturopathic degree. So when I was in practice, I was mostly practicing as a naturopath, and I could see the benefits. People were flocking to my practice. I had to close it down after a year. I was so fully booked up. So, I mean, that was really revelatory, just my experience. And then in terms of dietary supplements, personally, when I finally got to Manhattan and was doing a clinical trial on AIDS and chronic fatigue in the early 90s, I realized that it was a supplement problem with a lot of people. It was a toxic problem, a diet problem, and the lack of nutrients. So I began working with people, and well, more with the very sick people, so using the same things I'd done with, healthy people or people with chronic fatigue, for example. Chronic fatigue is now long COVID. So the work that I was doing back in the early days of chronic fatigue, I'm still using now. And then because I was in Manhattan, I did a lot of media, and Random House asked me to write a book on magnesium out of the blue. And when I started researching for the book, I realized that my headaches and eye twitching and neck pain and heart palpitations and mild IBS, leg cramps, Charlie horse leg cramps in the middle of the night, they were all magnesium deficiency. And I was shocked. So then I started taking magnesium only to realize I'm one of the people who gets a laxative effect with any amount of magnesium. So my book came out. That was the first one, The Magnesium Miracle. This is an update, the 2003. Now, this is fascinating, Serani, because it was supposed to come out in 2001, the day of 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And I was living in Manhattan. Everything shut down in the whole, city, and it shut down in publishing for 2 years. So the book that was supposed to come out fall of 2001 didn't come out until 2003. So that was quite interesting. But at any rate, so I didn't have the tour that we planned. I was going to go around the country talking about magnesium.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. But for 10 years after the book was published, I was looking for a dietary supplement company that would make a non-laxative magnesium. Because what I was seeing with magnesium, and there's been a lot of research that people can look up, but it doesn't get to the clinician, it doesn't get to the doctors. And what we know now about magnesium, that 80% of known metabolic functions require magnesium. And that could be up to 1,000 enzyme systems. They talk about 300 or 325. It could be 1,000. So from head to foot, for anything to do with muscles and nerves, anything to do with 80% of enzyme processes involves magnesium. Anything to do with your energy. When you make energy either through the glycolysis cycle and then into the Krebs cycle, a lot of those steps require magnesium. ATP itself, adenosine triphosphate, binds to magnesium to activate it. So we don't have energy if we don't have magnesium. And ATP is used throughout the body to create energy in all our cells to, again, make the biological processes work. So, I mean, serendipitously, because of my deficiency, I created this reason to look for a non-laxative magnesium. I couldn't find a company that would make it for me. I finally found a chemist. We worked together, and I had to create my own company to make a magnesium that you can take in enough quantity to deal with 80% of no metabolic functions, but not get the laxative effect. So it's a huge breakthrough. And it's kind of low key. I have to keep it under wraps because the FDA has, they've come down on a lot of supplement companies, but, I've been targeted to the point that I can't say, I won't mention the names of my products on this podcast, because if I say that, and if any supplement company says that their dietary supplement can help a disease or cure a disease, then we're told, okay, you've just named yourself as a drug. And in order to make a drug claim on a disease, you have to have the $1 billion medical clinical trial. Yeah. So the public is in such, they're squished into this box of the doctors telling them to take drugs. And then now on the internet, there's so much information, and there's a lot of misinformation. The biohackers or the lifestyle people who say, well, I'm eating 16 bananas a day and I feel great. And then people follow that. Yeah. So we're in a situation where we depend on podcasts like yours to give out good information so people can make their own choices.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the FDA. I mean, I can imagine. I actually I've covered the pharmaceutical industry for many years, 15 years, and know about like the claims that they have to, there's a lot of red tape, but like in terms of something like just talking about magnesium, so you can talk about like the nutrient, which could be in food as well as supplements, but you're not allowed to talk about a pill that does it.
Right. Or my website, we had to take down any testimonials I had of people who'd say, oh, I had this horrendous condition and I took your such and such and now I'm better and I don't have to take drugs. See, that's what they're afraid of is drugs will be displaced by nutrients, and they can be because most of what we're going through now is poor diet, toxic environment, and lack of nutrients. Yeah. And if we had the right building block nutrients that would allow our body to be detoxifying all the time as it's supposed to, if we have the building blocks, our body can do most of the heavy lifting. And I guess and you may get to the point of asking me this, but I'll say right now that the breakthrough with making a magnesium that's non-laxative is that it's a stabilized ion in a picometer size, and being a stable ion of the size that's the same size as the cell mineral ion channels. These minerals can get directly into cells and do their work. And when minerals are inside cells, water follows. It's the osmotic effect. So the water goes in, you got your minerals, and you get your activity. And there's a lot of talk now about mitochondrial dysfunction. Oh, it's the mitochondria. What do we do with them? And what happens in the mitochondria, as I already said, many of the steps in the cycle of making ATP require magnesium. So magnesium is very important for mitochondria, and I think a lot of mitochondrial dysfunction is caused by magnesium deficiency. 80% of the population is not getting even the low RDA amounts, recommended dietary allowance amounts of magnesium. And that to me is horrendous. So we've got a situation where the blood tests aren't giving us an accurate reading. The serum magnesium, it's only measuring 1% of the total body magnesium. Now, my company, one of the many things we're doing is university research, where we're showing that the ionized magnesium blood test is what we need to be doing. And I'm working with magnesium ions. The magnesium ion test tells us how much magnesium ions are available at any one time. Because what happens with magnesium compounds is you'll have the magnesium and then it's added to citrate or glycine or malate or L-threonate. And it's a compound. But compounds are not absorbed through the cell mineral ion channels. They're too big. They're just not going to go in there, and they're not going to have any effect. So what the body does in the bloodstream, the liquid bloodstream, mineral compounds, so we're talking about magnesium compounds will dissociate into magnesium and the other part. And the other part is usually a predominant part, like in a 500 milligram salt of a magnesium citrate, you may have 50 to 75 milligrams of magnesium, and the rest, 425 milligrams, 450, is the citric acid. So you're not really getting magnesium. So with the dissociation, that occurs in a split second. Because especially with magnesium, which is very hyperactive, it'll join right back up to the citrate or something else. Okay. It'll join to fluoride, fluoride drugs in the water, fluoride in dental products. It'll attach to fluoride and make a brittle compound that finds its way to joints and tendons. Okay. So many sidebars there.
Yeah, definitely very complex, because a lot of magnesium that's out there, first of all, you hear things of magnesium glycinate for if you're having trouble sleeping, need to be calm, and then citrate to boost levels of energy. That's what I have heard, because there's also magnesium. Like, I bought a magnesium from a pharmacy, a well-known pharmacy brand, not really knowing much. I think that's the problem with these supplements, that people are buying them, but then we don't really know how to differentiate between what is a good supplement and what is possibly not so effective supplement. And what you're saying is that, so I mean, I'll let you comment on those two, but your theory is that it's a mix of them?
No, my theory is that the breakthrough with having a stable ion of magnesium is what people need.
Right.
But I'll also say that because magnesium is so necessary in the body, any amount of any magnesium is going to help a person.
Yeah.
And what you have to do to avoid the laxative effect is you don't take a full dose all at once. That's why liquids and powders are better, because then, like mine's a liquid, for example, you put it in water along with sea salt, because if you put some sea salt in your water, you're getting the 72 or so minerals that are found in sea salt. Mm-hmm. And you drink sea salt water through the day, you put your liquid minerals in the water, and you sip it through the day. You don't take it all at once, because right. that will encourage the laxative effect, because your cells are overloaded, and then you'll dump it out either through the urine or through the stool.
Yeah. And what's your opinion on those two that seem to be popularly talked about, like glycinate for one thing and citrate for so to recap, glycinate for trouble sleeping, more of a muscle relaxant, and then citrate for boosting overall energy levels?
It's the magnesium does both. Magnesium ions help with your sleep. They help with your energy. They help with keeping your blood sugar under control. They work with your DNA and RNA. They work with protein synthesis. It's a magnesium all the way. I don't know that the citrate one, it's more laxative for sure than the glycinate one. Glycinate is promoted more for the non-laxative effect. But in the marketing world, when you look at someone's, oh, our product has 7 different magnesiums, and they're all going to help you. Well, if your body is magnesium deficient, as so many people are, you want magnesium.
Okay.
You don't want the malate or the taurate or the whatever. Yes, they'll be helpful. But if you look up, and I have it in my Magnesium Miracle book, a list of citrate, as I said, it's like 50 to 75 milligrams in a 500 milligram capsule. Magnesium L-threonate is the worst offender, marketing half-truths. Because on their bottles, they'll say magnesium L-threonate, 2,000 milligrams. And you think, I'm buying a magnesium, so yippee, I'm getting 2,000 milligrams of magnesium. You turn the label over and they say, oh, well, actually, you have to take 3 capsules to get 144 milligrams of elemental magnesium. So that's outrageous. 3 capsules. So 1 capsule is, 45 or so. When I was working on my I had heart palpitations. I can't say they were atrial fibrillation. They didn't test for atrial fibrillation, but I required 1,200 milligrams of my liquid magnesium for about a year before I was totally rid of my palpitations. So before that, with magnesium compound, I could only take 50 milligrams, and a little more and I get the laxative effect. So it all depends on absorption. But you have people, what percentage of our population is constipated and needs to take a laxative? So those magnesiums are going to be, magnesium oxide is hugely laxative. It's only 4% absorbed. And I can say that because there's been a study in that, but we really haven't studied all the other magnesiums. I mean, eventually I hope to be able to do that with our studies comparing, my magnesium with other magnesiums for absorption. At this point, we've done a couple of studies, but our Purdue studies showed that taking 300 milligrams of my magnesium, within 2 hours, it showed up as ionized magnesium in the blood. And that type of absorption is unheard of. Okay. So we are now depending on dietary supplement companies to do this research, because the drug companies are not going to touch nutrients except if they want to, bash them or put them down.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm also interested in your background as a medical doctor. I think I've talked with other experts about this and the fact that, Western medicine is really focused on treating symptoms and not that focused. I'm sure, there is some baseline level of nutritional education, but it's not really focused on nourishing the body and sort of in an effort to prevent certain diseases. What would you tell me your experience of that? Because obviously you had the light bulb moment as a doctor to go into this area, knowing that it's so important with the disease world. And I'm curious to know, your journey as a doctor going through your continuous education.
Right. As I said earlier, Serani, I thought doctors would all adopt a lifestyle nutrition focus. So they didn't, though. I mean, we started to have, because I did my naturopathic training, I was doing conventions and having lectures about nutrition. So I was well into it as soon as I began my practice. But for example, I remember one instance where a group of medical doctors were asked to get together to have a round table about nutrition. And one of the young doctors said, well, I can't really tell my patients not to eat at these fast food restaurants because there's no study to support what I'm saying. Right. So common sense was out the door. I saw that. Another thing that I saw happening is in the beginning stages. I started my practice in 1979 in Toronto, Canada, in a family practice, but I was doing mostly naturopathic work, first do no harm, find the root cause, treat with natural substances. And what I saw happening in the supplement world, because my practice helped open up the health food store industry in Toronto, because I would send people to these small little health food stores and then they'd grow bigger and bigger. There used to be just food-based nutrients. And then over time, I guess the drug companies got into making the synthetic vitamins, especially. So we've got synthetic B vitamins that you have to give in higher and higher doses to make any difference in the body. And when the oral doses don't work that well, let's give it intramuscularly or intravenously. So the synthetics are, I don't know, it's a generalization, but as I understand it, there's two rotational forms of vitamins. I don't know if it's all of them. So there's a right turning or a left turning. So you see the position of my thumbs. If you have a natural substance that needs a receptor site where you go in like that, okay, it's going to happen. But if you have the other side and you've got your receptor site over there, it's just not going to go in. And it's not until you have higher and higher doses of these synthetic vitamins that you'll get any reaction in the body. So that really, I observed that. So that's stuck with me. And when I finally was forced to make my own dietary supplement company, I had all this knowledge, all this information from 45 years of being in medicine to make sure that my B vitamins were methylated and food-based, and my vitamin C was food-based. Plus, I do an ascorbic acid powder, because there's enough evidence of intravenous ascorbic acid being miraculous for a lot of infectious conditions, even cancer. I work with omega-3 algae instead of a fish oil, because the fish livers now are so contaminated with the heavy metals and drugs and toxic pollutants that fish livers have to be sent to a special processing plant in Europe to get rid of all the contaminants. And what's happening? Is there any life force left in that type of fish oil? Besides the fact I live in Maui, and we have the whales down here for many months through our winter, and they feed off krill up in the Arctic. They come down, they don't eat anything, they give birth, and they go back home. And if we're fishing all the krill to put in our little capsules, what are the whales going to do in another decade? And then with vitamin D, it has to be vitamin D3, and it has to have K2 along with it, so that whatever calcium the vitamin D is helping to absorb, the K2 will direct the calcium to the bones and teeth. So there's very basic rules in dietary supplements, and there's also just very basic dietary A and E. I put food-based E and beta carotene in my omega-3 algae. So what I managed to do, because it's what I've learned over the past now 55 years, that you need basic nutrients in well-absorbed forms that the body will take in and help, create the detoxification pathways. You need, I use a couple of sulfur-based amino acids, taurine and methionine. Methionine, it's the precursor to glutathione. So you want your glutathione to be working. You want some methyl groups to help the methylation detoxification pathways in the liver. You want some sulfur groups to help sulfur detoxification. And instead of doing the basic building blocks, one huge example is the thyroid needs 9 minerals to make thyroid hormones. What do we do for the thyroid? We wait until it's completely dead and we give thyroid hormone replacement, which is either synthetic or it can be natural, but it's not the whole picture.
Right.
So the building blocks are so important. And what do we do instead? Oh, well, we have to detoxify. We have to flush out the intestines. We have to flush the liver. And when you do that, you're forcing the body to make a priority that it's not ready for. The liver stores a lot of viruses to protect us from having a viral infection, and it waits for an opportunity to detoxify them and remove them. If we flush the liver on someone who's already toxic and weak, then we create more problems. We have people who'll say, oh, well, let's give you a loading dose of DMSA or EDTA to see how much heavy metals you excrete in your urine. Well, you're allowing those toxic heavy metals to come out of the cells into the bloodstream, circulate through the brain perhaps, and cause all kinds of symptoms. I've had so many people come to me who say I've done a detox, even a sauna detox. People will get dehydrated with a lot of sauna therapy, and especially if they're not replacing their minerals. Chelation, intravenous chelation, it pulls out more than heavy metals. But in my experience, what I see with the proper mineralization of your cells is the cell, the receptor sites that hold the minerals or whatever, they're all happy because they've got their minerals, and there's this play in the body where the minerals go off to do their cofactor work. But if you have empty receptors and you're exposed to heavy metals, you could be breathing lead-based gas, which hopefully is not so much in the environment, but it's on the farms. You could be having mercury in your dental treatments or mercury fillings. Those heavy metals will make their way to those empty receptor sites and become toxic just because you don't have enough minerals. And that to me is huge. I have people who'll take my magnesium for 2 or 3 months, just doing the magnesium, and they'll start to detoxify. And if it's a rash and a coated tongue in women vaginitis, then we know they're detoxing yeast. Their immune system has finally caught up, has enough nutrients in order to dump the yeast and the heavy metals. So the basics are just that. They're basics. We see in the newly commercialized supplement industry is websites that have 100 products, and each one of them has a big story about how it's vital that you take that product. It's just become so, as I said, commercialized. A lot of people from the hospital world and the pharmaceutical world, they see the huge growth in the supplement industry, and they've jumped on. So they're doing the marketing in the same way that they used to market drugs. Find the disease and here's the cure, or even create the disease and here's the cure. You have this symptom, you need this supplement. But that's not the way the body works.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge minefield for people. Just hearing you talk, it's like I feel like I might not be the only one, but we're all just thinking, oh crap. Like, what am I taking right now? Like, we just sort of might read reviews or someone's recommended it, or it's just there, it's the option. And yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if there could be more labeling, more regulation, more more allowance for there to be more confidence amongst consumers. But is that changing? Is there a push to get some better regulation on this industry?
Well, I mean, the regulation that the FDA wants is to stop supplements and just have them all be prescribed by doctors who don't know a thing about supplements. So they want to stop it. I mean, if you I'm sure you're aware of, Codex is the World Health Organization, World Trade Organization that tries to standardize foods that ship from country to country and dietary supplements. So in 2005, I attended a couple of meetings, one in Bonn, Germany, and one in Rome. And man, it just was frightening because the people who were promoting Codex, which was the German delegation, they wanted to allow as much toxic chemicals in the food as possible, and they wanted to make all dietary supplements low potency and synthetic. And their stated mission, and I don't think this was even under the table, but they said they don't want dietary supplements to interfere with drugs. And they probably meant and would market that, well, these dietary supplements, they can stop your drugs working and then you'll die. Whereas what the hidden message is, well, if you take dietary supplements, your body may not need the drugs. One of the things that I worked on in my magnesium books is looking at over 65 health conditions that are really magnesium deficiency and misdiagnosed as diseases and treated with drugs. And then you look at all the drugs that deplete magnesium. So you've got a terrible vicious cycle where the more drugs you take, the more magnesium deficient you become.
Yeah. And, it's not a case of we should be able to get this all from food and from our diet.
Right. No, that ship has sailed. When I first moved to Maui about 14 years ago, I immediately got in touch with an organic farmer. He does organic biodynamic. I support him heavily because food is so essential. But even with everything that he does, I cannot live on the farm food alone. And I've done the experiment. I can't just eat all the vegetables and we have chickens, we have eggs, we don't do meat. I'm not a vegetarian, so maybe that was part of the reason I couldn't follow through. But my heart palpitations started coming back when I was just eating, excellent organic food. We farmed out the soil so much that it's not in the vegetables and fruits anymore. We've overprocessed our food. 70% of the U.S. diet is processed and ultra-processed foods. There are no nutrients in ultra-processed foods. So when I see now a lot of the bloggers and biohackers, oh, you have to have a good diet. Even allopathic medicine is saying, yes, nutrition is important. Well, no, we just can't get enough. You do not see a label in the grocery store on your food. Well, how much magnesium is in here? How much zinc? How much copper? That's just not even considered. And doctors don't learn anything about nutrition. So they'll sit across from a kidney dialysis patient who's twitching and all tight and their blood pressure's high, and they won't even know it's a magnesium deficiency. And in the kidney disease world, somehow the word has gotten out that you can't take magnesium if you have kidney disease. So these people on dialysis are just lose magnesium during dialysis. I have a story in my Magnesium Miracle book about a customer who is on dialysis, and she finally talked her dialysis team into taking a blood test for magnesium before and after her dialysis, and it fell. And they finally agreed to let her take I think she was taking it on the side anyway. But these dialysis patients, they have severe magnesium deficiency, and they're not being treated with magnesium.
Yeah. And what is your advice to those patients that are, speaking with their medical doctor and they're also taking your supplements? Like, what is the advice there to ensure that, they're not interacting in a bad way?
Well, the thing about magnesium, it's supposed to be in our food. 100 years ago, we were supposed to get we supposedly get 500 milligrams of magnesium. Now we're lucky to get 200. So all you're doing when you're taking 300, 600 milligrams of magnesium is getting what you should be in your food. So when you take, I was going to say low potency dietary nutrients, which is the way I focused on my nutrients, because Codex is going to stop us taking high dose supplements first. So I just went for low dose, and with the magnesium, a dose in my product is only 300 milligrams, which is lower than the RDA. So they're not going to attack my nutrients, but then people can take more as their body needs them. But if your diet was supposed to have 500 and you're getting 200, then you need to take a supplement. The fail-safe of magnesium is that if you take too much, you get the laxative effect. It is the safest mineral or nutrient to start with. And in my case, I just mentioned to you a while back that I took 1,200 milligrams, for a year, but now I only need 300 to 450 milligrams. So your body gets saturated, and then it stays replete. And if I were to take more than that, I'd get the laxative effect, and my body would tell me. But see, that's very difficult, because it's difficult because people will say, well, I took this magnesium and it immediately causes the laxative effect, so I must be saturated. I must already have enough, because doctors will say that to their patients. Take this magnesium, and when you get diarrhea, then you probably have enough. No, there's so many people with sensitive guts now, the leaky gut, and in my world, that's caused by yeast overgrowth, but that could be for another time. So with the sensitivity, the toxicity, the fact that we're so deficient in magnesium, people can react. You can take a magnesium at bedtime and it could keep you awake, whereas you've heard, oh, it's supposed to make me sleep. That has to do with your own biochemistry. So most people probably have magnesium in their cupboard. I'll just say to people, start taking it. If it's a capsule, open it up, put it in water, and sip it through the day. If it's a powder liquid, then you're in better shape. It's harder with pills. You'd have to crush them. But the whole thing is to spread it out through the day. And then with the water, my water guidelines are take your body weight in pounds and divide that in half and drink that many ounces of water a day. And in every liter of water, put a quarter teaspoon of a good, colorful sea salt. The sea salts that are pure white, they've been processed and the minerals have been reduced or taken out. So that's my if we're looking for a basic message to start with, get your water in order, take some magnesium. If you feel you need more magnesium, look me up and see about this picometer stabilized ion of magnesium.
Yeah, great. And just a final word on that. When people are choosing their magnesium, is there anything that they should watch out for? I mean, you did mention the powder and the liquid, but is there anything like any warning sign that you shouldn't pick that particular magnesium?
It's not so much a particular magnesium, but look on the label and see how many added ingredients there are, binders and fillers and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's what happens with pills. Often that you have to have something to, force them to all play well together in a tablet. So again, that's why powders and pills are better. But no, there's the contraindications for magnesium, more like higher dose magnesium, are bowel blockage, kidney failure. They say myasthenia gravis, but then I've had patients who've told me that they needed magnesium to get rid of the toxicity that created their myasthenia gravis. So it's important for practitioners to get educated about magnesium. Right now, I'm producing content for an online naturopathic university. Know Your Wellness is the name of it. And when young people say to me, "Oh, should I get my medical degree or naturopathic degree?" I say, get an online naturopathic degree from an accredited university, and then you'll have your diploma, and then you can tell people to take my products, and you've got it covered. I mean, it can be that basic, except we've just gone through this crazy pandemic and quarantine, and we don't even know what long COVID or long vax is. We have to be very vigilant, and we do have to take care of our health. And maybe I'll just say this one final thing is with food. It is important to eat good food, organic food if you can, but it's actually more important what to avoid. And you really want to stay away from processed sugars. Some fruit is okay, but sugars are toxic. Like we're starting to say about alcohol being toxic. Sugar has so many downsides, and it's used to trick our taste buds into eating more.
Right.
And vegetable seed oils are really not good for us, like sunflower, safflower, certainly canola oil, which is genetically engineered. But those oils are omega-6 predominant, omega-6 fatty acids, and that they are pro-inflammatory. A bit of omega-6 we need, too much. Seriously, when I get into organic snack a while back, and after a while I couldn't bend my fingers. This is my test for toxicity. If you can bend your fingers and get them to touch the top of your palm and they don't hurt, that's a sign that you don't have fluid retention, and fluid retention means toxicity. So all of a sudden I couldn't do this. Now I finally looked at the label. That was sunflower oil. So you look at your labels, you avoid the sugar, maybe gluten as well for a lot of people, especially over here in North America. They've really over glutenized the wheat, so people can be sensitive to it. And even caffeine, I'm because I work so much with the heart palpitations. People who drink a lot of coffee do tend to have heart palpitations.
Not happy to hear that one. As I do. I mean, I'm not desperate for my coffee in the morning, but I do enjoy the aroma, of, good coffee every now and then. But
of course,
lots of food for thought there. And we have run out of time, but, I could talk to you, for ages. And I wish you all the best with, RNA Reset, your company and your books. And hopefully we can possibly do this again. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your incredible insight. To our listeners,
thank you.
To our listeners, if you want to learn more about RNA Reset and their innovative products, be sure to visit their website at www.rnareset.com. Is that right? The link will be in the show notes.
Yes, that's right. And my educational site is drcarolyndean.com. I have a radio show and webinars and blogs. It's all about education and opening people's minds. Yeah. And thank you so much. Yeah.
I definitely have been on that website, and I think that your blogs are great. And I think that you might need to log in to read more.
Yes, because the FDA has been so crazy with the information that we share. We've had to put ourselves behind a wall. Okay. But most of my information is freely available. But for my 20 ebooks, people will have them to the membership site, because in my books I talk about my products, and apparently I'm not supposed to do that. This book, which is on Amazon. It's I can't even talk about my products in here, but
This is the magnesium. That's magnesium.
that magnesium, the missing link to total health. So this is a condensation. What happened with my Magnesium Miracle book? It became 600 pages with each new edition. So it's just too much for people to read. But this is wonderful, and it's on Kindle as well, and it's it's not priced very high. So that's the type of book you mentioned earlier about doctors. People will take my books into doctors and say, "Look at all this research." There's in my Magnesium Miracle book, I have 600 references for what I'm talking about. So the information is there, and people just have to, you know, I guess, get educated and get confident that their body will know what to do when they take the right nutrients. That's what I'd say.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. To our listeners, don't forget to follow or subscribe to Holistic Health Habits for more episodes and leading experts in the field. Until next time, stay healthy and stay informed.